Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Going the Distance. This is episode 31. Man, I can't believe we've done 31 episodes. But I want to welcome the new members who are just joining us for the first time, and I want to welcome back the members that have been joining us from the beginning. So we've got a few sports stories to get into. We've got a segment from the King on the King's Corner. We're gonna have some music news and some motivational. So let's jump into it. So first off, as I talked about a few days ago, they raced the NASCAR race in Chicago, the street race. Well, during that race, there was a caution come out, and I believe there was a second one come out during that caution because there was a wreck between Bubba Wallace, who I'm not a huge fan of at all, and Alex Bowman. So, yeah, it was raining and, everything, seemed okay, but Bubba Wallace intentionally wrecked Alex Bowman as a payback for something that Alex Bowman did to him a few weeks ago. Now, I don't remember seeing anything about that, but I did see the wreck, and Bubba Wallace was fined $50,000 for wrecking Alex Bowman, and I think it should have been more because wrecking somebody on a caution lap, in my opinion, is just low. I mean, how do you do that? How do you wreck somebody on a caution lap? They called it a cool down lap, so it might have been between everything, but still, why do you want to wreck them going slow?
That's bull. I mean, excuse me for saying this, but if you ask me, $50,000 is lucky. What? $50,000 is too easy. He's lucky he wasn't suspended.
Exactly, and he should have been. And had it been a Hendrick Motorsports driver, it might have. That might have happened. They might have suspended him suspended him if he had been a Hendrick person. But because he wasn't, oh well. But I found out in other racing news that Noah Gragson, who drives for Stewart-Haas this year, has signed with Front Row Racing to race with them next year because, as we've talked about in weeks prior, Stewart-Haas is going out of business after the season's over. So all these drivers are starting to find different homes for next season. And Noah Gragson, who isn't really a big name, but it's somebody that, I guess they're trying to make a big star, has now signed with Front Row, which I believe used to be who Martin Truex Jr. raced for before he signed with Joe Gibbs Racing. Because when I started watching racing, I remember Bass Pro Shop and Furniture Row and all that on the front of Truex's car, and I believe they said it was Front Row Racing.
Well, I can't clarify that, but I do know that the landscape of the industry is always changing, so the fact that these drivers need new sponsors doesn't surprise me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And as anybody who watched the video a few days ago, Hooters isn't a sponsor with Hendrick Motorsports anymore because they couldn't pay their bill.
I wondered if you were able to follow up on that because
I wasn't able.
That kind of surprises me considering they're a corporate company. I figured they'd be able to pay a bill easy.
Exactly. I thought so too. That's why it shocked me when I saw it. I was like, really? I mean, you couldn't pay your bill? You're Hooters. You're a big name. You can't, So I haven't really been able to follow up with that because, that's all that I know. They just couldn't pay their bill. So as for now, Chase Elliott's trying to find another sponsor to replace that. But he's got Napa and he's got, he shares, I believe Hendrick still has the Mountain Dew sponsor. So they still, back and forth with that. But This coming weekend, this Sunday, they're racing in Pocono at 2:30. and they start.
Oh, that's the mountains of Pennsylvania.
Yep, and they start all their stuff today. The practice and the qualifying, all that today. So they run for the Cup Series. They run the qualifier and the practices, or the practices today. Probably the qualifier will probably be tomorrow.
Right.
But then they run like the truck race and the Xfinity race on Friday and Saturday, and then get ready for the big boys on Sunday. So tune in Sunday at 2:30 to watch Pocono, and I will have results for y'all on that race on the next show. So in some sad news, defensive coordinator Monte Kiffin, the father of college coach Lane Kiffin, passed away yesterday at the age of 84. Now he was a well-renowned defensive coordinator and actually won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay when Tampa Bay beat Oakland in the Super Bowl back in, I think they want to say that was the 2002 season. That was actually the very first Super Bowl I ever watched. Well, the second Super Bowl I watched, but the first time I got memorabilia from a Super Bowl. And that was something because in that Super Bowl, that was when John Gruden was the coach of Tampa Bay at the time. And the big story with that Super Bowl was his first year in Tampa Bay after Oakland traded him because Oakland didn't want him to be coach anymore.
Man.
So I can't remember who the coach was in Oakland at the time, but I remember it was a big deal. And
it's an enormous loss by the industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Certainly our sincere condolences.
Absolutely.
To the family.
And I've never been a big Lane Kiffin fan just because of, I've always thought he had that hot head. And
well, nothing against anybody else, Pete, but the fact is, especially in football, all coaches are a little bit hard-headed.
Right, but think about this. So Lane Kiffin, I believe, was the coach of I know he was the Tennessee Volunteers head coach. I believe he got the job at USC. Okay?
Right.
So think about this. This is why I don't the big reason I don't like him. So he's in Tennessee, he gets this USC job. He tells nobody. I mean, not even the ESPN commentators knew that he got the USC job. I believe he had just signed a contract extension with Tennessee, went behind their back, got the USC job, and then up and leaves in the middle of the night. Doesn't tell anybody, just up and leaves.
So, you think it was just being greedy?
Exactly. He should have come forward and he should have said, listen, I got a new job. This is when I start. Yes, I just signed this contract extension, but I've moved, I've got another opportunity.
Yeah.
Instead, go ahead.
It wouldn't surprise me, though. A lot of people get into this business for the wrong reasons.
And I think he's one of them. And I think now he's the head coach of Ole Miss, I believe. So, condolences to the Kiffin family, and we'll see how all this how Lane does next season, I guess. So, I know we haven't talked much about this, but we've had soccer tournaments go on called the Copa America. And we're winding down. Actually, Sunday are the finals. And I actually had a friend at work tell me about this because I didn't really know much about it.
Right.
But I don't
follow much soccer either, but continue.
I watched a couple matches, and I don't understand the rules that much. I'm still learning and everything. But, I've seen things on ESPN and everything about it, and I really have to tell you, when I watched the United States play, I really got into it, man.
Well, I think during one of our prior conversations online, I kind of broke down how the time structure actually works.
You did.
Where I told you that it's 45 minutes, nonstop, 2 periods, or 2 halves, if you will.
Yeah.
And then the penalties are qualified as yellow cards versus red cards.
Right. So
that's only for serious infractions. Obviously, if you touch the ball with your hands, that's a common penalty.
Right.
But it's not going to get you kicked out.
Right. Not like, right. So I've kind of been keeping tabs on Copa America, been keeping up with it the past couple weeks.
Right.
So the teams that were in it in the Final Four were Argentina and Canada, Colombia and Uruguay.
Okay.
So, no. Yeah. So, Argentina on Tuesday night, Argentina defeated Canada 2-0 to move on to the finals. And then on Wednesday, Colombia defeated Uruguay 1-0 to move on to the finals. So on Sunday night at 8 o'clock on Fox, it'll be Argentina versus Colombia. I don't know.
Soccer's huge around the globe.
It is. It is.
It's going to be an interesting match.
It is. I'll definitely have it on and keep an eye on it, because I work with a lot of people that have that are soccer fans. And they'll be tuning in. And when I go in on Monday, I can say, I saw this, and, this shouldn't have happened, and that, this, that, and everything else.
I can see why a lot of people really enjoy it, because I've seen a couple of Charlotte Football Club matches on TV, and I can tell you that soccer is very intense, very fast-paced, but it's really a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I have seen some of the Charlotte matches. In fact, on some of my sports apps, I like Bleacher Report and Fox Sports and all that.
Right.
I've got Charlotte as a liked team, so I still keep tabs on Charlotte and all that, and keep tabs on soccer. But I'm going to learn the rules more so I can talk to some of the people at work about it. Because now I'm just looking at it and I'm just going, yeah, I saw it, but I don't really understand it,
Well, as with anything in sports or in life, you have to learn as you go. But
right.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Because there are things I'm still learning about, things that I find interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and if you're not learning something, then, you got to learn. They say you learn something every day.
Exactly.
So we learn things every day, and that's part of what this show is,
Exactly.
Like when I do music, if you hadn't heard the music, go check it out.
Right.
Anything to do with the sports. I know a lot of people don't watch NASCAR, but I'm hopeful that, some of them, learn a little bit about it through the show. But we are done. That was all that I had for sports this week for this show. But we're going to move on to what we're listening to. And I know this is a double what we're listening to this week, but who we're listening to this week is Onerepublic.
Another one of my favorites.
Same here.
Apologize.
Yep. Came out in 2007. That's when I first learned about them. I heard it on the radio and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. They actually formed in 2002 in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The main songwriter is Ryan Tedder, and in my opinion, he's one of my top 2 favorite songwriters. because Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20 comes in first. Ryan Tedder comes in second. Vocally, just everything. He can produce. He can sing. He's multi-talented when it comes to musical instruments. I mean, and I was lucky enough back in 2002. I saw him live in September of 2002 or 2022. I'm sorry.
I was getting ready to say.
Yeah, I saw.
2022. We were still teenagers.
Exactly, and they formed in 2002.
2002, we were still teenagers.
Exactly. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
But they've been a top 10 of mine for as long as I've known about them. They've had 6 albums, and one reason I wanted to do what we're listening to for today is because they just released a new album today called Artificial Paradise. And this is an album, if anybody's been following the band, this is the first time they've actually released an album since, I believe, 2021, something like that.
It means it's been over 2 or 3 years.
Human was the last album, yeah, and that was a great album. And that was actually the album I went and saw them on tour with. And they played some songs like I Ain't Worried from the Top Gun Maverick soundtrack, which is a phenomenal movie, so go check that out. And they played some covers, but what I didn't realize, or what I guess I can't say what I didn't realize, what they said was after that album was they wanted to release singles, but they didn't know when they were going to release another full album. So they were just going to release all these singles. And then just a few weeks ago, I found out that they had recorded a record, and it was coming out today. So for the what song we're listening to is not just one song. I want you guys to listen to the whole Artificial Paradise album and let me know what you guys think of it. Because I've heard really good things about it, and I've heard the singles, some of the singles from it, like I Ain't Worried and West Coast and a couple of the others, and it's just going to be, I think it's going to be a great album. So I want you guys to go check.
Should make for some easy listening, no doubt about it.
It should, and if you're a Onerepublic fan, it's definitely going to be good. So go check out Onerepublic, and that was all up into the motivational point. But King, I know you've got your segment you want to do this week.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna pass the baton off to you, buddy.
Well, thank you very much, Peter.
Yep.
As always, I'm here to bring a little pop culture spin to the show. And as most of you know, last week we had the Money in the Bank pay-per-view from WWE, and there were a couple of new news items from that. But before we get there, I have some interesting news on the entertainment front. As I mentioned last time I was on the show, the reigning American Ninja Warrior champion Vance Walker is trying to go back-to-back, which has never been done on the show. But I can tell you he hasn't lost a step yet. That's right. He made his return to the course this past Monday and made it look easy. So he's going back to the semifinals for the second consecutive year, and we'll see if he can continue his quest to go back-to-back as champion. But the semifinals do not start until after the Paris Olympics. So make sure you stay tuned for those on NBC in the coming weeks. Now, I have a couple of programming notes to pass along as far as the major networks. And this first one's a big one. Pete, you know how much I love game shows.
I do.
Well, I've got a big double header for you guys this week. Because next week, ABC is bringing back their revival of Fresh Your Luck for season 6 with the lovely and talented Elizabeth Banks as host.
Oh, wow.
So it's another chance for people to avoid the whammy and possibly win $1 million. That's starting next Thursday. But I've discovered that this year is a little bittersweet. Because apparently I discovered recently through Facebook that we've lost the original creator of Fresh Your Luck.
Really?
Yeah, Bill Carruthers apparently passed away in May, and the season is supposed to drop starting next week, so certainly our sincere condolences to the Carruthers Company, and thank you for the memories of all the fun over the years. We're looking forward to seeing season 6, seeing how that goes. On another note, this will tie in just a little bit, but since you like sports, I know you're a Shaq fan, or at least I think you are.
Yeah, I like Shaq.
Well, what would you say if I told you he himself is transitioning into the realm of game show host?
Really?
Yep.
What's he doing?
He's teaming up with Gina Rodriguez to host a brand new game of true or false trivia with $1 million jackpot on the line.
Wow.
It's called Lucky 13, and it's going to debut right alongside Fresh Your Luck's premiere this Thursday, July 18th, only on ABC. So make sure you check that out. Now, here's where things really get interesting.
Yeah.
You may remember a few weeks ago, we talked a lot about the retirement of Pat Sajak.
Yeah.
As the host of Wheel of Fortune. Well, I've received information that apparently his run at the wheel is not over quite yet.
Really?
Yes. Now, don't get me wrong. He's still retired from the daily syndicated show. That's not going to change.
Right.
However, I received information earlier this week that apparently he had already filmed a brand new season of the Celebrity Wheel of Fortune primetime for ABC, and that will debut October 7th on ABC, so make sure you guys check that out for one final series of spins with Pat and the celebrities playing for charity. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Now, speaking of retirement, there was a big story to come out of Money in the Bank, but I'll get to that in just a moment. But as you guys know, or for a lot of you who follow wrestling know, a lot of these storylines tie into what the WWE refers to as the Big Four.
Yeah.
Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Well, this past Saturday, we had the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And for those of you who don't know what the Money in the Bank format is, it's quite simple. It's a multi-person ladder match. One for the men, one for the women. There's a briefcase hanging high above the ring. And inside that briefcase is a contract that guarantees the winner a title match anytime, anywhere, for up to 1 year. Now, it's interesting because they can cash in at any time, including during a match or when a champion is most vulnerable. And that's important because it ties into the storyline this time.
Okay.
So anyway, we kicked off the night with the multi-man ladder match with the multi-person ladder match for the men's side. And as expected, a lot of people were just in it because they were hungry, but then there were others like Drew McIntyre who were out for revenge. But as expected, this match turned into a human demolition derby quickly. There were bodies flying everywhere, ladders, tables being destroyed. It was quite a show.
Mayhem.
Yeah, but it ended with Drew McIntyre using one ladder like a battering ram to knock one of the opponents off, and that opened the door for him to climb the ladder and secure the briefcase for the men. So for that moment, he was Mr. Money in the Bank. Then we see Sami Zayn successfully defend against Braun Breaker in an awesome match. One that I think will be an instant classic in the eyes of the Intercontinental Championship. But then it's where things get a little bit interesting. We had Damian Priest defending the world title, which is the biggest title on Raw, against Seth Rollins. Now, there was a gentleman's agreement in this match, which meant that if Seth Rollins lost, he could no longer challenge for the championship as long as Priest is champion. But if Priest lost, then he would be forced to exile himself from the Judgment Day faction. So there's a lot tying in here. As you can expect, the match went back and forth for quite a while. But right at the last second, there was a third wrinkle because while both men are down, Drew McIntyre comes out and attempts to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, which officially made the match a triple threat.
Wow.
And as you know, in a triple threat, there's no disqualification, no count out, so anything goes. It's like sudden death.
Right.
So it looked like Drew McIntyre was going to cash in and steal the championship from under both men. All of a sudden, here comes CM Punk. And you know what happened last time we saw him.
Yeah, I remember you saying that in a couple weeks ago in the episode.
Yep. He screwed McIntyre in Scotland, and then McIntyre beat him up and left him in a bloody pulp in Chicago. So you knew Punk was out for revenge.
Right.
So long story short, he beats up McIntyre so bad that he chases him out of the arena. He beats up McIntyre so bad that he opens the door for Priest to get the win over McIntyre, which means technically Priest is still champion, but it also means Rollins can't challenge.
Right.
Or so we think. So.
But anything can happen.
Right. And I will say, this past Monday Night on Raw, those two men mutually agreed to discard that gentleman's agreement. So I think Priest is opening the door for another encounter somewhere down the line, but we'll see.
How far down the line do you think it'll be?
Could be as soon as SummerSlam, but only time will tell. So then, fast forward, we get into the post show that took place after the main card was already over. Then we see Drew McIntyre basically run out there in a tirade. He's complaining about the fact that he got screwed again, which is understandable. And then they had to bring a bunch of agents out there to calm him down. And next thing you know, he strikes Raw General Manager Adam Pearce on live television. So the commentators are trying to hold him back. Long story short, both men, Punk and McIntyre, were fined $25,000, and McIntyre got himself suspended.
How long do you think that'll last?
Well, hopefully not too long, because we understand Punk has lobbied for appears to give McIntyre a match with Punk down the line. But we understand that McIntyre has been invited to Raw this coming week for a discussion with Pierce about his contract and about the suspension. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. Now, that leads us to the six-man main event between the Bloodline versus Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton.
Okay.
I have to say, I did not expect things to go down the way they did. Now, I do think they're leading into some kind of story between Solo and Cody, because Cody is the one that took the title away from the Bloodline when he defeated Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But, a long story short, the Bloodline is victorious in this match. So, I think this will continue to tie into everything. I don't know when they're going to bring Roman back, but I have heard speculation that he is coming back somewhere down the line. Maybe as soon as SummerSlam, we don't know.
Well, I heard through my apps, and I've seen some stuff on YouTube that said, I think they were trying to do it for Money in the Bank, but then Roman's dad passed away.
Exactly.
So then they had to push that back.
There was a tragedy within the Anawahi family, and Roman Reigns' father tragically passed just before the pay-per-view.
So I think, and honestly, and I don't mean to interrupt you here, and I'm sorry for this, King.
It's okay.
But I think, honestly, after seeing that, my thought process was they were going to have him return at Money in the Bank, more than likely after the match or right before the match ended.
Right.
To help Cody and Orton and all that.
Yeah, but obviously the plans had to be scrapped because family comes first.
Right.
Now, I mentioned there was a big story to come out of Money in the Bank. And here we go. We all know who the proverbial GOAT is in WWE, that being John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you probably know, we haven't seen John Cena actively for quite some time. Well, he made a surprise appearance in Canada at Money in the Bank and dropped a bomb.
What's that?
He has officially announced his retirement from in-ring competition.
Wow.
He says that 2025 will be his last year competing. He will compete in the 2025 Royal Rumble, and he does plan to compete in the Elimination Chamber and at WrestleMania. However, I misspoke when we talked about this prior to the show during the pay-per-view, because I said that he would stop wrestling after WrestleMania. That's not the case.
Okay.
Actually, according to Cena himself, he plans to work probably 30 or 40 dates within the calendar year of 2025.
Huh.
So this will be a rather lengthy retirement tour.
It'll probably take the rest of 2025 then.
But it should be a rather interesting send-off for one of the greatest to ever lace up a pair of boots.
So, with that being said, do you think he wins a championship?
It's possible. I've heard rumblings of people want him to break Ric Flair's record for years. But as we know, Cena's track record has not been that great.
Right.
As far as singles competition is concerned over the last 6 years. My concern is if they do give him a title, are they going to do it justice? Meaning, are they going to set it up to where he wins the title at WrestleMania and then maybe drops it at SummerSlam to give him a lengthy title run, or do they set it up to where he builds and builds and builds up to and including WrestleMania and then goes out on top?
See, that's what I think. I think they're going to send him out on top.
It should be.
If they want to do that.
Yeah. That to me is the way it should be, especially if he plans to make a few appearances once Raw moves to Netflix and once all the changes go into effect. So
right.
So we'll just see how things are going to go.
Oh yeah.
But with that being said, that about wraps up the pop culture portion of my segment. But I think we're gonna end things this week with you and I tag teaming on the motivation.
Yeah.
Now, as most of you know, last time I was on, I brought up a very personal story to kind of tie into the motivation, if you will. Well, I want to expand on that. Because, yes, everything that happened leading into that is because I made a mistake and I violated a boundary. I've always said that it's important to put boundaries in place as soon as possible, but it's also important for you, no matter how hard it is, or even if it hurts, to be straightforward with the person, with your friends, as far as why you're setting the boundaries, or if the boundaries are even necessary.
Right.
Like, for instance, in my case, it's very simple. If someone's acting out of anger, it makes sense. And I can understand why the person who committed the act that led to this made the decision she made, because it's understandable. She was upset.
Right.
And I made a mistake. However, if someone asked you to do something that you're not comfortable with, or is outside of your comfort zone, it's important to be straightforward about that.
Exactly.
Don't just ignore messages.
Don't just ignore the person in general.
Right. Because I understand life is crazy and people get sidetracked because of various things going on, but it's important to be straightforward with everybody about what you're thinking.
And
because I've always said my friends are just like my family, so I've tried to be straightforward with everyone in terms of anything, in terms of my goals, or in terms of anything I have in mind. So I think society would get along better if a lot of people were the same way.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, not everybody thinks the same way we do.
Right. But you also
know that.
You also have to think about this too. If they're ignoring you, it's not on you, it's on them.
That's always been the way I've looked at it. So
because
like Alex Trebek once said, we're trying to build a kinder, gentler society, and we have to work together if we're going to get there.
Right. I mean, if she's ignoring you, then that says more about her than it does you, because you've reached out and tried to apologize.
Yeah.
And she's not even acknowledging the fact that you're trying to apologize. But, that kind of goes with what I've said about, and I'm a firm believer in, people are put on this earth for a reason, and people are put in each other's lives for a reason. Sometimes for a season, sometimes for a lifetime. So she might have just been a seasonal person, and that season of of your life is over. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So then that kind of feeds into what I was saying, or what I was going to say about looking at the positives in life. You know, so you can't just let like her ignoring you get you down, and you can't overthink that because that's more about her than it is you.
No, I'm not.
Right, right. I was
If she
just
wants to
using.
move on, that's fine.
That's right. And you got to look at the positives and think, well, maybe there was a reason that happened, and not just be like, and not beat yourself up about it.
Right.
Because it probably wasn't you at all. Yeah, it probably, you know, because once you realized you tried to apologize, so you did the right thing. But now, you know, you extended the olive branch and she's not taking it. So I would say look in the positive on that and say maybe there's a reason that happened. And maybe she was seasonal and not lifetime type person. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Makes total sense.
Because
and I hope we can all learn from this.
Because I've had people I thought were going to be around for a while, and they're not. So I've come to realize they were just seasonal, and focus on what's ahead instead of what's behind, because you look to the future and not the past.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much as always, Pete, for allowing me to come on the show and
well, you are
hopefully be somewhat entertaining and inspirational.
Well, you are, man. You are, and you're welcome anytime. But do you have anything to add, James?
I do not, but I will say this. Like I've said before, if you guys have anything you want to add, motivation, or any stories you want to share that might tie into the show, please let us know, because we're trying to build this show together.
That's right. This is our show. This is, we all go the distance.
Right.
So,
and the ride's only just beginning.
That's right. So I'd really love it if you guys liked the video, commented on the video, subscribe to the channel, and
I do want to add one more thing.
And shared this video. Go ahead.
I know I promised you guys a personal announcement last time I was here. Well, I've been advised by the people helping me out to hold off on that announcement until they give me the green light. So we're not quite ready to make the announcement yet, but we will in the coming weeks. And I'll drop it right here on this show so you guys can get involved as well. So if you don't mind me, I'll close it for us. Thanks for going the distance, and just keep enjoying the ride.
There you go. God bless y'all. Have a good weekend, and see you guys next week.